With all the year groups in the school going through changes, often they want to know what is normal and is it okay to feel a certain way? Is it, or is there something wrong? What would your advice be?
That's another really good question. Again, it's trying to work out whether things are normal and at what point it's a problem, and it can be really hard to tell. So coming back to the idea that a lot of it is about, how it impacts on our body, those sorts of things, if it's impacting on the other areas of our life, so if it's stopping you doing sports, if it's stopping you concentrating at your lessons. What's really helpful is to have someone that you trust that you can go and talk to, and the teachers are all trained in this, so that if there's one of the teachers that you trust and get on with, having a conversation with them. It might be a conversation with someone in another year. It's really useful to have friends in other years, because actually it helps to bond people, to get people communicating, and just to having friends outside your other year group is really useful in these sorts of circumstances. So having interests outside of school, for instance, is one way to have to know people in other year groups, so that can be really helpful. But the really important thing is to find someone that you trust that you can talk to and just say, is this a problem? And if you think it is, then we're really happy at the surgery to hear about it. We're happy to talk it through. The other person who's available is the school nurse, so you can come along and talk to the school nurse and say, this is what's going on, should I be worried? And it's a really useful question to know. The other thing that's really helpful is there's some good online resources. So Young Minds .org.uk has got some really useful advice written for young people, written for parents, written for teachers, just to say, these are the sorts of things you might be worried about, and these are the times when it would be a concern, and actually, if it's like this, then that's not too bad, and this is when we'd start to get to worry. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that answers it fully.
Okay, thank you.
If you had a young person overeating or undereating, what would your advice be?
Yeah, it's another really important question, Louis. It's important to recognise that sometimes, briefly, our appetites can change if we're under periods of stress, or if you're unwell. Often your appetite goes off for a couple of days and you don't feel hungry, and that I would consider reasonably normal. But I'd be much more worried if you're under-eating for other reasons. Sometimes people think that their body shape isn't the shape it should be, and they try and restrict their calories in order to try and change the body shape, and that can start getting a bit worrying, because it can be hard to stop. It can be hard to recognise when you're, for instance, thin enough, and that is a warning sign for me. So if people are over-exercising, if they're really trying to restrict their calories, and if it's starting to make them poorly, again, I'd be really worried. In terms of overeating, I suppose I'd be questioning where that's coming from. Sometimes people have learnt to eat because it's a way of comforting yourself. And it's not necessarily the food that's the problem. I'm always interested in what is the thing that's making you unhappy, that's making you eat a lot. And I would say the same thing for people who, for instance, gain too much or do kind of too much of anything really. Where's that coming from? What's the thing underlying it? And because that's the thing to fix, rather than to say don't eat less. That doesn't really help. But what's actually driving that kind of behaviour is again a really interesting thing.
Yeah, like stress eating and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so, and it's a difficult thing because we all have to eat, and it's part of our life, and it's part of the way, often we have meals and we eat together, and that's part of how we converse and we socialise. So really important to eat as a family. Trying not to have the telly on is also really helpful, because those are the times that we get together, and actually the times we kind of make connections and talk about the things that have gone on.
Yeah.
So again, I would see that as kind of healthy eating, and where people are wanting to eat on their own, or again restricting their diets. I'd be concerned at that stage. But we'd always want to know about it. If you think it's a problem, we'd rather know about it, because the important thing, particularly with eating disorders, is to get to people early, to ask for help, because there is help that's available.
Yeah.
Isn't it like, for example, if you think it's healthy, but then you do it too much, it almost becomes unhealthy?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If you eat too much salad, like only salad, then like you won't get like protein or.
That's right, yeah. So kind of balanced diet, your 5 a day is a really good guide to it, but it's also really important to get energy in. If you're not getting enough calories in, then your body doesn't work properly, and then you feel tired, and then that can feed into the other aspects of your life. So it's harder to concentrate in school, and your body stops working properly. So it's a real issue. And again, water is the other thing. People sometimes think, well, water's really healthy, so if I drink more of it, I'll get more healthy. But actually, the body doesn't work like that. If you drink when you're thirsty, that's fine. Try not to get dehydrated. But drinking more water doesn't make you more healthy, and actually it can make you quite poorly if you drink too much.
Yeah.
So people at high schools mostly, they get teased about their size and like if they're skinny or really fat. And what happens if they came to you and asked what they should do? What would you say?
I would see that as bullying. If someone is having a go at you about something really that, I suppose, especially if it's outside your control, that feels really unfair. And we know that bullying is a really strong influence on poor mental health. I know schools are working really hard to try and deal with it. So I'd be wanting to make sure that schools are aware that this is happening, and to try and make sure we can do something about it, because it feels really unfair to be picking on people about kind of physical or about other aspects of their life, really.
Do you ever do like assemblies at other schools?
No, I haven't. I've done I did a talk for Year 9 where we talked about mental health, which was really useful. It's funny, GPs, we're so used to doing one-on-one stuff, and it's unusual for us to be doing larger groups, but I think it's really important, because actually there's lots of information that is helpful for people to know about. I hope it means that we're more accessible, and that at the end of this that you'd feel it's easier to kind of see the GP, because we really want to know about people if they're struggling. That's what I'm there for, and I'd always rather see someone who's having difficulties than feel that you're kind of suffering in silence, really.
Yeah, you should do something more assemblies, I think.
Yeah, well, I've been working with Mrs. Clark, and we've been working with school about trying to look at the ways that we can deal with mental health. So the Clanger stuff has come out of that, the 5 ways to well-being, but also trying to think about what are the other things that we can do, for instance, in the town, how we can be a bit fitter, how we can kind of look after ourselves better.
I think maybe there should be like a club after school that like you can talk to people like you about their troubles of their health, and they could ask you questions.
It's a really good idea, and we have talked about it, and we have got a bit of a plan on that to see if we can do something like kind of group-based things, because sometimes it's just making us more accessible. So yeah, that when we get more mental health workers coming into schools, I think that would be a really important part of it. So it's a brilliant idea. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
How much screen time would you recommend for people under 18 to be using daily?
There's no recommended amount. The good news is that some screen time is okay. There are some people have suggested that screen time is damaging and dangerous, and actually the research doesn't bear that out. We think that social media has probably got a positive influence, because actually it's connecting with other people. So although it's really important to be aware of internet safety and to make sure you're blocking people and sort of careful about people who can bring you down or be negative, actually research shows that screen time isn't necessarily a bad thing and can sometimes be quite positive. Where I worry is where people are spending all their time on screens. So if you're not getting out and not doing things, and particularly at night, if you're using screens in the hour or so before going to bed, there's good research to say that actually that can interfere with your sleep. It can make it harder to get to sleep. So it's really useful from, say, ideally a couple of hours before bed to try and cut back on screen time as much as you can, just because it helps turn your brain off and it helps you to sleep better. And good sleep is really important for your physical and mental health.
I used to go on my iPad before I went to bed, and now I just start reading books before I go to bed because it makes me it's easier to go to sleep. So, yeah.
Sometimes you get caught up in a discussion or something that's going on, and it can be really hard to turn off from that. This social media is meant to be kind of Moorish. It's meant to interest you and kind of almost be a bit addictive. And as long as you engage with it appropriately, that's okay. But if it's taking over your life, and you're doing it to the extent where nothing else is going on in your life, then again it's a problem, because it's important to be outside, it's important to get exercise, it's important to see your friends, it's important. Real life stuff's just as important. So just getting everything in moderation, I think, is really the best advice there.
What about how much video game time you spend?
Again, I would see it as much the same thing. If you're doing it all day, I wouldn't say that's very healthy. But occasionally, if that's your relaxation, that's what you enjoy doing, then that's okay. But to have it as part of the balanced day and making sure that you're on top of your homework and that you're seeing your family and you're seeing all your friends and all the other people, I think that it's okay as part of kind of just a balanced day. So you can blame me. You can take that to your parents and say, he said it was alright.
Okay.